about physics in this talk, and this work is done together with co-authors. Inga Prince is PhD student, Jāzefs Rutgis is a bachelor student who is starting to train on lasers. Ilya Peshchenko defended the doctor thesis in December, and Kristina Andreeva is guest researcher from Bulgaria. During Photonica project, we have acquired very modern femtosecond optical frequency comb, which allows to count optical frequencies with 14 digits or more. And the objective is to measure optical frequency of rubidium line using femtosecond comb and compare with good literature and check if we can measure optical frequencies correctly, as it should be. And maybe it will be possible to improve these frequencies. Now in the literature, they are measured with 50 kilohertz uncertainty. If we stabilize frequency comb on GPS time, we can get 11 digits of precision, which is around 5 kilohertz of uncertainty in this optical region, 780 nanometers. And why is it necessary? One of tasks is to calibrate tellurium vapor cell, molecular vapor cell, which is necessary for collaboration with ETH in Zurich for precision measurements of positronium, exotic antimatter atoms. And tellurium cell is made here. Every tellurium cell can have different wall property, different buffer gas inside. So every cell needs to be calibrated against some better method. So now about setup. We want to compare optical frequency with radio frequency using femtosecond frequency.
Returning back to tellurium cell, sorry for interrupting. It's not so much problem. We can calibrate windows. We can calibrate content of vapor gas exactly with up to 1% or even if it's not precise. And we can calibrate also parallelity by using laser.
Yeah, it's okay,
these technologies are.
But every cell is different.
You never said, but if you are doing that, we need simply to do it.
Okay. But we need to measure optical frequencies because every cell, like every clock which is human-made, is slightly different shift.
But we can do as precise as possible.
And in former times, tellurium cell was made in one institute, then shifted to some National Institute of Standards and calibrated there, then shifted back and did measurements, and again to compare if it's still the same. So it's not so easy, and the cells are aging. Some gas is leaking from outside with time, and everything depends also on temperature, how hot is the cell. So far we have not started with tellurium precision spectroscopy, but we are on the way to learn how to measure optical frequencies of rubidium vapor, which is quite well known. And so we have 780 nanometer laser. We send it to rubidium saturation setup. We see saturation spectroscopy lines. Laser is of course jittering around, so for short time stability we can stabilize laser on a Fabry-Perot type interferometer with two parallel mirrors. It's like a flywheel. And we can shift laser frequency against fixed Fabry-Perot resonance using a pulsed-optical modulator. Of course, Fabry-Perot resonator is drifting with time, but for short timescales around 1 to 10 seconds, it is much better than frequency comb. But for longer timescales, it's aging. And femtosecond frequency comb, it's for 1 Second, it's having some acoustic jitter, so it's not as good as a Reaper resonator, but one can stabilize frequency comp on 10 MHz radio frequency source, and then it's good for long term. Where we get this 10 MHz of radio frequency comes from commercial microwave rubidium clock, but these commercial clocks, they are aging, they are drifting with time, so they need to be calibrated against, for example, GPS time. GPS receiver sends out 1 pulse per second, and rubidium clock sends 1 pulse per second, and we compare time interval, how this second pulse is changed. And this comparison is allowing to correct rubidium clock on a longer time scale, on 1 day and longer. And such method allows to reach 11 or 12 digits of frequency measurement. So now I will tell about details. Here you can see optical setup of rubidium saturation spectroscopy. In the corner is external cavity diode lasers. Such lasers are very robust. They can operate for days and months without switching off. There is a laser diode, and here is external cavity grating, which allows to tune laser color coarsely, and fine tuning is done using laser current. It is very fast. We know that diode lasers are used for telecommunications, so they are very fast, and changing current allows also to change the wavelengths of diode laser quickly. And by changing wavelengths, we can scan across the rubidium line. Here you see Doppler profile, and on the top of Doppler profile there are saturation spectroscopy peaks. These saturation peaks, they originate when some part of laser beam is sent back from a retroreflector through the same rubidium cell. Then this beam which is sent back, it's called probe beam, it's much weaker, and the first initial beam is called pump beam. This pump beam excites all atoms which are in resonance, and then when probe beam comes, if all atoms are excited, they cannot absorb this light. So that's why here comes these peaks. And these peaks correspond to hyperfine structure splitting in rubidium atoms. In theory, here should be 6 peaks, but we see only the strongest peaks. We still need to improve our setup to see other peaks because they are very small and on a steep slope, so one cannot see easily. But yeah, we think we can stabilize laser on these peaks. And it's one possibility to stabilize laser on the peaks, but other possibility is to scan laser. And to scan laser, we can stabilize laser on a 2-mirror resonator. Here you can see 1 mirror, and it's fixed to a zero-dur glass cylinder, which is low expansion glass with thermal expansion coefficient 10 to -8, which is 100 times better than for fused silicon. And this resonator is placed inside a aluminum heat shield, and here you see a part of vacuum chamber. On the bottom there is Peltier element, thermoelectric cooler, which can stabilize temperature, so we can get very stable environment for this resonator. And on the right side you see measurement. It's against another stable laser. One can get 1 kilohertz laser length. Oh, actually, yeah, it's okay now. Full scale is 10 megahertz, and here peak laser is around 1 kilohertz. So it's quite good result. And drift of resonator is maybe a couple of megahertz per day. Here is time 3 days, and the resonance frequency has drifted 4 megahertz. This drift can be measured with frequency comb against rubidium because it's against the rubidium clock. It's atomic resonance is usually more stable than human-made resonators. So then about frequency comb. Frequency comb, if you remember, it's a femtosecond laser emitting short pulses, femtosecond pulses. These short pulses, they have broad spectrum. And if the pulses repeat in regular intervals, then the spectrum is not continuous, but it has many peaks. It's optical frequency comb. Now optical frequency comb is made using fiber laser, and there is some optics around for making beat note. To measure unknown laser, this unknown laser is sent through optical fiber, here in green color or yellow color. And then frequency comb light and unknown laser light is sent to a photodiode, and one gets optical beat note, which is difference frequency between these two laser frequencies. It's in radio frequency range, and it can be counted very well with 1 hertz. And frequency comb lines, they are fixed to radio frequency standard. This is quite elegant method, invented around 2000. Yeah. Here you see how it looks. It's basically like a computer rack, and then optical frequency comb is on the tabletop. So it allows to measure optical frequencies not only in large national institutes, but in many university laboratories. So for referencing optical frequency comb, as I said, we need a stable radio frequency source, and we have recorded how our rubidium clock, which we borrowed from astronomy people, how it is behaving. Here clock was not corrected against drift, and by applying some correction on the knob, one can decrease this drift. And what we see here with red is 1 microsecond time scale. 1 microsecond per 1 day, it is around 100,000 seconds, 10 to 6, and 1 microsecond is 10 to minus 6, so you get 11 digits or 12 digits per day, which is quite good. We have started with a cheap GPS receiver which is used in mobile phones, and now we have installed a more professional receiver, but it's only single frequency, it's also a cheap one. And we have recorded how antenna position, how stable is the antenna position. Of course it's stable, it's on the roof, but in GPS there are variations by some 20 meters or 50 meters. And this plot was with first receiver, and this is with the new receiver. It looks better with the new. So we hope that this new receiver is better. And like with old clocks, you cannot tell from single clock if it's good or not good. You need always 2 clocks to compare. So this is a good test. And this was my last slide. So we are on the way to do this measurement, but it's complicated. It takes a lot of time to get all parts together working. About this part, we now wrote a manuscript for publication with Aigar Sarbat, so there is some outcome. And yeah, all this equipment, it was purchased during Photonida project, so it's was quite good possibility. So thank you for attention.